In this video, we will learn about how to configure authentication with GitHub credentials. For this purpose, as usual, we need a user's model to store authenticated user data, which we created in the previous videos. Particularly if you're interested about how we created this user model, you can watch the first video in our authentication series, signing up with Google. For allowing configuring authentication with GitHub, we need to go to the application settings. And from the application settings, we need to click on the authentication. And as usual, we've got the user data model user selected. We've got the success and error redirect URLs. These are the URLs of our front-end application when the user has been successfully authenticated, or in case if there is an error during the authentication, then your front-end application will be redirected to this error URL. These are the pages basically which we were configuring in Webflow. In Webflow, we are creating a basic web application, like 3 pages, home, where we'll list all the authentication providers. So whenever the user clicks on one of them, then they are redirected to the respective authentication flow. We've got the success page showing the success of the authentication, and error page in case if the authentication has failed. So we show the error page. And the URL for the success is basically these ones, /success and /error. So we basically copy it and paste those values to here. Depending on your front end, you need to configure these values according to your requirements. As usual, we are also selected the user session, create a user session option. This is whenever the user is authenticated successfully, then a new user session and authenticated session token will be created and returned back in the response. So we already configured Google, Facebook, Twitter, and Discord, and the final one is the GitHub. So let's turn this on. As usual, we need to create the client ID and client secret. So for this purpose, we need to go to the GitHub. Okay. So in the documentation, it mentions about that we need to sign into our account, GitHub account, and go to the settings. So let's go to the GitHub account. Sorry. Okay, this is my account. So I need to go to the settings here. Under settings, under the developer settings, I need to go to the OAuth apps. And under the OAuth apps, I need to create a register a new application. So my OAuth test app homepage URL. So let's get this one. Our homepage URL is this one. If I go back to here, this is my homepage URL. Testing authorization callback URL. The callback URL as usual is this one, the callback. Copy this one and paste this thing to here. By the way, depending on which environment you are using, you need to copy and paste the correct environment callback URL. Right now we've got only one environment, which is development environment. So we copy this one and paste it here. So register application. Okay. So this is the client ID. We need to copy this thing. I need to go to here, client ID, and for the client secret, we need to generate a new client secret. And this is the client secret. Let's copy this one, paste here, and let's save this thing. I think we completed the configuration for GitHub. Let me sign out from here. Okay. And this is the URL where your front-end application needs to direct its users for authentication. So let's copy this thing. Let me go back to Webflow. Let me select this one. And the URL, this is basically a link. I'm just updating it, pasting the value that I copied. Then let's publish this thing. Okay. Let's wait a couple of seconds for Webflow to complete publishing. Okay, it's completed. Let's go to the website. Okay, the last one is this one. Let's click on this one. Okay. So we redirected here. This is my account. Okay. Let's sign in. Okay, I'm authorizing this application. I'm redirecting to the success page right now. Yes, I'm successfully signed in using my GitHub credentials. I get the user information, plus since I selected this create session option, I also get a new session and session token. and all this information is a JSON object, and the stringified version of this JSON object is provided in the path URL as a query string parameter named response. So all these values, the stringified version of this thing is basically in the query string parameter named response. Okay, if I go back to AutoJig, if I go to the test panel to see whether the associated user record has been created in the database or not. So we already have the Google, Facebook, Twitter, and Discord. Let's refresh this thing. And the final one, we've got the GitHub also. And all the user information, correct user information, including the email address and so on, has been created in the database. Okay? So that's it for authentication using different authentication providers. Thanks a lot for watching.